Hey there, and welcome to today's explainer. If you've ever looked at those super high performers and wondered, why do some people seem completely unshakable while others just freeze up in the exact same situations? Well, the source text we're unpacking today offers a seriously fascinating blueprint. We're going to completely bypass all those usual tired platitudes and actually break down the mechanical process of how human self-assurance is genuinely formed. And honestly, what the research reveals is incredibly grounding. It turns out confidence isn't magic. It definitely isn't luck. It's actually a measurable, repeatable process that absolutely anyone can learn to engineer once you understand the architecture behind it.
But before we get into that blueprint, I want you to be completely honest with yourself for a second. Are you waiting for confidence? Think about it. How many times have you held yourself back from pitching a new idea, having a tough conversation, or chasing a massive personal goal, all because you quietly told yourself, I'll do it when I finally feel a bit more confident? We kind of treat confidence like a train we're waiting for at a station, right? We just sit there on the bench hoping it arrives so we can finally board and get moving with our lives. But the source material challenges this passive approach head on. It suggests that if we just sit around waiting for that feeling of readiness to strike, well, that train is never going to arrive.
So let's dive right into part 1, the confidence myth.
To build a solid foundation here, we first need to completely demolish a massive, paralyzing misconception that literally stops millions of highly capable people from reaching their potential. We've got a stark contrast to look at that totally shifts how we should approach personal growth. The pervasive myth out there is that confidence is just inbuilt, that it somehow comes straight out of the box for a few lucky individuals. We see a charismatic speaker or a bold executive, and we just assume, oh, they were born with that software pre-installed. The text makes it incredibly clear that this is entirely false. Actually, scratch that. It's not just false, it's dangerous. The mechanical reality is that confidence is built step by step, over time. It is earned, not given. You don't inherit it genetically. You construct it through deliberate, repeated action in the real world.
Which brings us nicely to section 2. Courage comes first.
Since we know we have to build it ourselves, the text outlines a strict, non-negotiable prerequisite that absolutely must exist before confidence can ever make an appearance. The source defines courage beautifully simply. It's feeling the fear and continuing to step ahead in spite of it. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that courage is not the absence of fear. Think about it. If you aren't scared, you literally don't need courage. Instead, courage is the active, conscious choice to put one foot in front of the other while your heart is pounding out of your chest and your biology is screaming at you to run away. When you face that fear head-on and consciously override that urge to retreat, that is the exact moment you build courage. It's the absolute bedrock of this entire architecture.
Now contrast that raw, gritty action with confidence. The text defines confidence as the result of exposing yourself to difficult situations again and again. So courage is the raw action you take when you're terrified. Confidence is simply the accumulated byproduct of those courageous actions. Like, think about the very first time you had to speak in public or start a demanding new job. You had zero confidence in that moment, right? You were relying entirely on raw courage just to survive it. But by the 100th time you give that presentation, the fear is gone. You've built a track record in your own brain. You only get confident in something when you expose yourself to that specific, difficult situation repeatedly. It's strictly an output, not an input.
Moving right along to section 3, building brick by brick.
So the source lays out this clear, repeating feedback loop for personal growth, and it's a highly constructive step-by-step sequence. Step 1, you face the fear. Step 2, you take a risk and step into the unknown. Step 3, you achieve a minor victory. Now, this third step is absolutely pivotal because the text specifically highlights the word minor. You do not need to conquer the entire world on your first attempt. Getting through a tough 5-minute phone call, that's a victory. Sending an intimidating email, total victory. And finally, step 4, you gain a tiny bit of confidence from that specific outcome. And then, the loop just repeats. You continually stack these small, minor victories over an extended period. Brick by brick, step by step, the architecture of your confidence steadily rises.
And here's where the source presents a completely fascinating paradox. It says you gain confidence only when you do things you know that you cannot do. Human nature usually tells us to stick strictly to what we're already good at, right?
precisely so we can continue feeling safe and confident. But the text argues analytically that true growth demands the exact opposite approach. You actually have to take the calculated risk of attempting what currently feels impossible for you. It's in the very act of risking failure and stretching just slightly beyond your current proven capabilities that real, unshakable confidence is forged. If you only ever do what you already know you can do, well, your confidence is just going to plateau.
Which brings us to the central driving philosophy of the entire text, and I absolutely love this line. The more hard stuff you do, the more hard stuff you can do. It's such a simple statement, but it is practically profound. Your capacity for difficulty expands exactly in proportion to the difficulty you willingly take on. It's honestly a lot like upgrading an internal operating system. Every single time you push through resistance and manage a complex or frightening situation, you are literally rewriting your own internal code to handle much heavier cognitive and emotional loads in the future. The ceiling of what you consider to be hard stuff just continually raises the more you engage with it.
Let's wrap this up with Section 4, the anxiety antidote. Because building this architecture ultimately leads to a massive psychological payoff. The mechanics here are so practical. First, you deliberately choose to do things that scare you. As a direct result of that conscious choice, you earn courage and you build confidence. And the beautiful long-term outcome? You are now fully equipped to handle the stuff that makes you nervous down the line. Whether that means managing difficult conversations at work, navigating completely unexpected life changes, or leading a team through a massive crisis. The source text emphasizes that by continuously stepping into fear, you aren't just surviving isolated events. You are actively constructing this deep, internal reservoir of resilience that you can draw upon whenever you need it.
And this brings us right to the core argument of the source material. The more confidence you gain, the less anxious you become in handling uncertain things in life. This painstakingly built confidence ultimately acts as a ridiculously powerful shield against life's inevitable uncertainties. Look, we can't control what happens in the broader world or what unexpected challenges are going to pop up tomorrow. We just can't. But by systematically facing smaller fears and building your confidence brick by brick today, you radically reduce your baseline anxiety. You learn to deeply trust your own ability to figure things out, which means when uncertainty does hit, your default response shifts from pure panic to a much calmer, more rational assessment of the situation.
So we know now for sure that the confidence train isn't coming to pick you up. You have to build the tracks yourself, leveraging raw courage as your primary tool until confidence eventually follows. So, keeping all these structural mechanics in mind, the ultimate question the source leaves us with is this: what hard thing will you step into today? It's time to stop waiting to feel ready. Find the friction and start laying your very first brick. Thanks so much for joining me on today's Explainer, and I'll catch you next time.